Good morning. My name is George McDermott. This is the 4th of July, 2026. I am making this video as I am preparing to go to the United States Supreme Court today to file papers in objections to the latest unsigned order I've received from the clerks of the United States Supreme Court. And as this is the Independence Day or 250th anniversary, we have a judicial system that is broken, is not functioning for 99% of our citizens. It is controlled by corporate America, and we have been lied to, cheated, and disrespected. So I'm making this, and I will also follow it up with the videos of the actual delivery of this message to the clerks, to the security of the Supreme Court, as you are not allowed as victims, as litigants, to actually access the Supreme Court clerk's office anymore. They have a gate across it within the building. It restricts us from going in and getting copies of our dockets, getting information necessary to view cases, to view public documents in our courts. This is after 32 years of judicial terrorism and legal terrorism against myself and my family and all of the victims who I have ran into and helped and assisted over the last 32 years through my associated websites at secretjustice.com, at georgemcdermott.com, at YouTube, George4Justice, and at the now new foundation I am trying to start up, which is Citizens Coalition for Restorative Justice, which hopefully will become a nonprofit to benefit those who have been victimized. So the caption on my petition is important. At the United States Supreme Court, Washington, D.C., a sub-agency of the United States, Inc., DUNS number 0527141196, with an acting CEO, the Honorable John Roberts, as the Supreme Court Justice, who I had addressed on May 14th a letter to, and the clerk on the 15th of February, 15th of June, returned all my documents and with an unsigned non-responsive forged document, which was issued by Emily Walker under the direction of Scott R. Harris, clerk of the court. Now, this is the document I received back on June 15th. George E. McDermott, 143 North Huron Drive, Forest Heights, Maryland. In Ray documents. Dear Mr. McDermott, in reply to your letter or submission received on the 14th day of 2026, I regret to inform you of the courts is unable to assist you in the matters you presented. Well, it was a request to John Roberts to produce his oath of office, his his contract with the United States government and all 9 justices to produce their legal jurisdiction and authority, which is the cornerstone of our foundation of our legal system. In reply to your letter or submission, okay, under Article 3 of the Constitution, the jurisdiction of this court extends only to consideration of cases or controversies properly brought before the court from lower courts in accordance with the federal law and filed pursuant to the rules of this court. Your papers are being herewith returned. Well, that's a fraud, and there's no judge has authorized this. The letter, I want to see the electronic signature verification that a judge looked at this, because the clerk is only supposed to receive documents and to forward them on to the judge by electronic means, and then the judge will refer something back to them. So this is a clear fraud. But this is our 250th anniversary Declaration of Independence, which is not being allowed. It has been a total lie. Well, it wasn't up until 1933 when the leaders of our nation's House, Senate, and Judiciary Committee decided that the United States was to become a corporation and remove us from as a Republican form of government into a private for-profit corporation, which all government agents and agencies are now corporate agents, and they've refused to answer the question posed to every court in the United States by me personally, through certified registered mail, through motions, pleadings, through personal requests to hand delivered to members of the House and Senate. Not one of these thousands of requests has ever been answered by the Board of Directors, which is the Congress of the United States, and the President's, Donald John Trump, who is now the interim CEO of the corporation, and his cabinet. I say this because that's what he is. He's not a president of the United States. He is a CEO of the corporation who is abusing his oath of office, and he has no more power than any other CEO of any corporation. When because they violated the oaths of office. Here are like I said, this is the 4th of July, 2026, and I won't reread the whole filing, but this is information that every citizen should know about, but we don't, because the incorporation of the United States was done under the 1933 Bankruptcy Act, and giving the companies the country over to corporate America, which the founding fathers definitely did not want. And I will go down here to quote and this is what the quote from America's honored America's founders honored a deep skepticism towards corporate monopolies and to the potential for unelected courts to be undermining democracy. They feared that the consolidating wealth and massive commercial enterprises like the British East India Company would eventually corrupt both the lawmakers and the judiciary, ending eroding the public's republic from within. America's founders harbored a deep skepticism of corporate monopolies and the potential of I'm sorry. So the founding fathers said on the steps of signing his Declaration of Independence 250 years ago that their fear was that these monopolies would undermine and destroy this country. Well, we have evidence now that it has. And it's gotten much, much worse. And at right now, after 250 years, we have only impeached or removed approximately 12 federal judges for misconduct. The same ratio goes for state governments. These judges, once they become judges for life, can abuse the rights and liberties of our citizens and destroy our Constitution and rule of law. I have witnessed this for the last 32 years. I have challenged this for the last 32 years. And I'm just asking for this motion paper I'm filing here is a motion that asks for the let me get up over here. Petitioner George McDermott's motion in response to Supreme Court Clerk Scott S. Harris and alleged Deputy Court Clerk Emily Walker's latest most preposterous June 25th, 2026 notification to the petitioner. Direct request to the Chief Justice John Roberts to establish the court's legal jurisdiction and authority, and it appears to be operating as a foreign totalitarian regime, unconstitutional arm of the Corporation of the United States, Inc., along with its federal judicial system, state judicial office, judiciary, and the inferior appellate courts, promoting effectively title properties theft, denial of equal access to our courts, falsification of court records, destruction of court records, and falsification of court transcripts through the use of unconstitutional, unsigned, unverifiable orders, judgments, and decrees prohibited under the following statutes into which this court entered supporting this to which this court entered supporting staff are now subverting the Constitution and the rule of law of this nation. No, that affects every citizen of this country. How could we possibly go back to 2000? Let's reflect back to 2000, which would have been 25 years back. The first 125 years, this country went from a zero debt to a debt of $2.2 trillion. In the last 25 years, that debt has now risen to $40+ trillion as our elected leaders fight amongst themselves as political enemies on both sides, abandoning their oath of office to take care of the affairs of the corporation of the United States, of our government, period, which is no longer a government, it's a private for-profit corporation. Now every citizen in the country is now liable for their portion of the $40+ trillion in debt that we now have, which is 38 trillion plus in just 25 years, putting the burden on our children, our grandchildren, and all future generations. I was just elected to run for U.S. Congress general election in November of 2026, and I'm trying to get the Supreme Court to clarify before I run whether I will have to surrender my citizenship in the United States of America in order to take that office should I be elected. I'm not going to read the entire document. It will be on file in the United States Supreme Court. And this is under case number 10-10236. A jury demand was made. Monies were paid. A contract was made with the corporation government. It's also there are related cases ongoing presently in the United States Federal Circuit, Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit, case number 2615-26, which comes from the U.S. Court of Federal Claims, D.C., 1-case 125-CV-1398, which was removed from the D.C. Circuit Court, case number 1:25-5411, and also 1:25-5096, and that comes from this came from case number 25-1:25 1222 U.S. District Court for District of Columbia, which was being appealed from case number 98-1235 TPJ, which was filed in 1998, days before the 4th of July. So I'm letting people know that we have rights, we have remedies at law, and it's time that these judgments are all void because none of them have the required uh, electronic signatures. No judge has ever produced an oath of office in any proceeding I have asked for. And these are hundreds of requests to the Justice Department, American Bar Association, the Inspector General's Office of the United States, the uh, court administrative offices of the United States. So, and this is a under Section 5 of the motion paper. It states that, let's see what I put down here. In closing for the record, petitioner moves to vacate and set aside alleged paper of May 14, 2026. For the deficiencies and lack of jurisdiction, as the court has again refused to establish its legal jurisdiction and authority regarding the petitioners for the past 20 years. The court must now divulge its legal jurisdiction and authority and its foreign agents, assigns, and appointees, as well as concurrent with the rule of law. Their oath of office and the Constitution, the organic United States of America, unincorporated. Questions the court must answer before it can proceed any further without committing treason against the Constitution and the rule of law. The statutes published in the United States Code, valid and enforceable by this court. And now here's the meat of the questions. 5.1. The reason why law is necessary, the full disclosure of specificity comes into play. Commercial proceedings, once you are summoned into any of the private mercantile courts, Title 8, 22 and 28 U.S. Code 26 edition 1933 states 3097 Treaty Series Convention of Rights and Duties stated the Congress of the United States with intentional established that the Congress of the United States converted all laws in the United States to international control, placing all states under international law. And an answer is required. 5.2. December 9, 1945, the Organization of and Immunities Act requires that every public officer of the United States under United Nations Statute 22 CFR 92.12-92.31 F8 FR heading Foreign Relationship states that an oath of office is required for officers is mandatory. An answer is required. 20 plus years, no officer of the court has ever given a copy of their oath of office. And this is unacceptable. 5.3 goes on to state that Title 8 U.S.C. 1481 states once the oath of office is taken, citizenship is relinquished. Thus, you become a foreign entity, agents of the state. That means that every public office is a foreign state, including the political subdivisions, and every single court and court personnel are considered a separate foreign entity, citing 28 U.S.C. 1603-11. A mandatory answer is required for this. It's the same thing I've been sending out for 20 years. And moving on forward, it says 5.3, Title 28 U.S.C. 3002, Section 15A states that the United States is a federal corporation and not a government, including the judiciary section. How many folks watching this are aware of that? There was never a constitutional amendment that allowed our leaders back in 1933 and 45 and 47. There was never a mention of a constitutional amendment that would have allowed the leaders at that time to abolish our national government and our Republican form of government and put it into a private corporation, which was done by lawyers of the American Bar Association, the Bar Associations and its predecessors, and members of Congress who were 90% lawyers at that time. The judiciary and legislative bodies who all had a duty to follow the law and demand that there be a constitutional amendment placed on the ballot so that citizens of this nation could make that decision as to whether we wanted to become a private for-profit corporation. This was done so that J.P. Morgan Chase and the banks and the lawyers, the judges, would all be acting as CEOs, including John Roberts, as CEOs of these individual departments within the United States government. 5.4 goes on to state, citing from Title 28 of the United States Code 1603- the definitions for the purpose of this chapter: a foreign state, except as Section 36, 1608 of this title include a political subdivision, a foreign agent, state, or agency or instrumentality of a state are defined under this subsection 28 U.S.C. 1603, open paren B. An agency or instrumentally or foreign state means any entity into which a separate legal person, corporation, or open paren 2, which an organ of a foreign state, political subdivision thereof, or majority of the above shares in the partnership interest is owned by a foreign state. Well, who owns these shares? It was the United States of America. We were a Republican form of government. We were not incorporated as a corporation. The founding fathers didn't want that. They feared corporate interference. They feared it, what harm the corporate incorporation would do to our Republican form of government. Let's go on. Which is neither a state of the United States as defined under Code Section 28 U.S.C. 1332. C, open paren C, and D, close paren, of this title, nor created under the laws of any third country. The United States includes all territory, waters, continental, insular, to the jurisdiction of the United States. It didn't say United States Incorporated. It says insular to the United States original organic definition. D, a commercial activity means either a regular course of commercial conduct or participating in commercial transactions. The commercial character of actual activities shall be determined by the reference to the nature of the course of conduct of the particular transaction or an act, rather than by reference of purpose. Open paren E, a commercial activity carries on the United States in the United States by foreign means, commercial activity, or by a state which a substantial contract with the United States. And see footnote 4. Federal Rules of Evidence 902, evidence that is self-authenticating and evidence that are self-authenticating. They require no extrinsic evidence or authority in order to be admitted. Open paren 1, close paren, documents, domestic public documents that are sealed or signed signed. They have to be signed. Nothing's signed in our federal and state appellate courts today. You get clerks of the court who just issue these documents in the name of the court under alleged per curiam decision, which has never been ratified by the constitutional amendment to authorize the courts to use per curiam unsigned orders to dismiss 99% of the cases filed. This is just to keep the American Bar Association and the judges and their insiders wealthy and allow them to steal, rape, rob, and pillage our assets of our great nation, as they have done for the last, more so in the last 25 years than at any other time in our entire existence. You know, like I said, we're now roughly $37 trillion in debt from just 2002, when the national debt was $2.2 trillion. Now it's over 40 trillion and counting. There's no accountability except that we, the peoples of these United States, are used as chattel against the national debt and traded on Wall Street, while these judges and lawyers and everybody else make enormous personal gains at our expense and the expense of this Republican form of government, which was taken over by corporate entities who really never paid anything for it. There's no evidence that there was ever a 1 cent paid to the original founders, to the original Constitution and our citizens to allow this to happen. So this is the 4th of July, 2026. I will pick this up later, but one, the authority in order to be admitted a domestic document that are sealed, and once again, these courts clerks are using the court seal as to forward these 4 fraudulent documents by U.S. mail, which is another felony, and there's no accountability. A document that bears a seal purporting to be that of the United States, any state, any district, commonwealth, territory, or insular possession of the United States, the former Panama Canal. Now, this is interesting. They're saying the former Panama Canal, because this is showing that this was ratified recently, but yet it's published in the 2025 edition of the United States Code, annotated. So these statutes are all verifiable in the Code of the United States of America, and you should look after them. Political subdivisions or any of the entitled, I ran out of space and I didn't finish it off, so this is what I'm fighting for. So I'm heading down. I'm going to finish this document up, and I'm going to head down to the Supreme Court now to file this. And I apologize for, I'm 81 years old. I've been fighting for truth and justice and for victims' rights for the last 32 years. I'm fighting for they've stolen a little over $32 million in my assets, and I'm still being a victim, being legally terrorized every day as I fight for justice for others, and I fight to reclaim the businesses that the corporate government and its agents have stolen from me. So I wish you all a blessed and a happy 4th of July, but do not be deceived by this corporate fraud that is taking place. It is not a true representation of the organic Constitution signing. They do not mention anywhere that the corporations are now controlling everything in this country. And the judges give preference to these corporations over the oath of office and the rule of law. The CEO of the corporation, Donald John Trump, is a convicted felon, and he actually, along with his Republican colleagues, assaulted and tried to bring down the Constitution and to overthrow the legitimate Constitution of the United States when he assaulted the Capitol building with intent and purpose so that he could remain in office. And yet he was still reelected because corporations now control all of our elections. The average American vote no longer counts. It's all Washington insiders, lobbyists, lawyers, special interest groups, dark money, funding these campaigns. So I would ask everyone to be vigilant. If you want to find out these truth of these matters, I've given you the case numbers, I've given you every case that I've had in the last 32 years. I've been very fortunate. God has blessed me beyond belief. I've been allowed to participate in a real democracy by representing myself in numerous jury trials and in courts of appeals, and I've prevailed every time. I have the videos of these appeals and these documents that and transcripts. So anyone who wants to challenge it, I will gladly let them see the record. I respect the Constitution of the organic United States of America. I disrespect the totalitarian regime that has overtaken our nations. Executive branch, congressional branch, and judicial branch. We have to do something. We have to stand up. We have to fight. Our founding fathers made it clear in the Declaration, in the Constitution Declaration of Rights, by putting explicit language within the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. When the government becomes abusive to and upon itself, it is our right and our duty to abolish that form of government and form a new government in its place. Thank you for being with me today, Heavenly Father. Watch over all the victims who are being, our nation is being raped of our assets, our beliefs, this false teachings of these politicians and corporate CEOs and corporate insiders. They're even weaponizing God now with false pretenses by a man who has committed more felonies than anyone can possibly imagine, bankrupting every company he ever touched. So I thank you for this day. It's the 4th of July, 2026. God bless everyone and have a safe and prosperous weekend. George McDermott signing off.